Welcome to the Set to Lead podcast, the online mentoring platform for emerging and current leaders. My name is Marianne Samdi, leadership coach and talent development expert, and I will be your host. Welcome to the show, Jessica. I wanted to dive in quickly and give our listeners a little explanation about these culture tours that you do.
Sure.
And why you started doing them.
In 2015, I came across this article from Philadelphia Magazine, put out an article on the coolest places to work in Philadelphia. And I thought, I've always been a really passionately curious person. When I, am curious about something, I don't just dabble in it. I kind of go head first and really wanted to find out, what is it about these companies that make them the coolest place to work? And so I thought, I'll just start finding out that answer on my own, and started to seek out different companies and folks that I knew within the companies that were on that list, and came across some really unique findings. And I think it sort of morphed into more than just finding out what makes them cool, quote unquote, but more or less what makes them great places to work that retain incredible talent. I'm a part of our Young Professionals Council here in Philadelphia through the Chamber of Commerce, and we recently put out some data based off of a survey that went out last year on what it's retaining millennials in the city of Philadelphia. And a lot of it comes down to the work that we're doing. Are we engaged within our careers? And if we are, and we're, happy within the walls of the working world, as well as, the rest of what Philadelphia has to offer, we're going to stay here. And that's the goal of the Chamber of Commerce, is really to find out what it is that's going to keep people here. And so all that said, I really took a dive into these different companies and found some really unique things that are taking place that I don't really believe are happening in all workplaces, but I do think these particular companies have set the bar high for other, competitors, or for other companies and workplaces around the region.
So what are these things that stood out in these different companies you toured?
Sure.
I'm like really on the edge of my seat here to hear.
Well, so I think that the article, when I first read it, it really comes off as those things that are tangible, right? So you walk into a workplace and there's a beer pong table at any time of day. You can play beer games, or right, or there are sleeping pods for people to take naps. During the day, if they've worked, in the one industry, finance industry, they're working at some points during the year around the clock, and so they provide their folks sleeping pods, or kitchens that are fully stocked, or full cafeterias that cater to companies. So those are more of those tangible things that I was seeing, both reading about, but also seeing when I went into the companies. In particular, the one that really, I think, is doing a really great job with those tangible things, as well as the intangibles, is Franklin Square Investments down in the Navy Yard. They really cater to the health and well-being of their staff. And because they are in the finance industry, they recognize how hard that can be, both on your mind and body. And so they have a lot of catered things, such as a gym with on-site, a cafeteria on-site, the sleeping pods, all of these sorts of things. And so you have these tangible things that, of course, I think bring people in and say, oh, I'd love to work there because they've got all of these perks. But Marianne, when it comes down to it, that's not what's going to keep someone there. Really, the best things I was finding was saying to someone, why do you love working here? And it came down to one of two things. The first thing being the people, and the second thing being transparency. And really, I believe that they go hand in hand. If you've got good people leading you, they're going to be transparent. They're going to want to share what they're working on and make you a part of those conversations. No one likes to be blindsided, whether it's personally or professionally. We all want to know what's coming down the pipeline to be prepared. And I think that the companies who are able to retain the best talent are those who understand that you need to be transparent with your people and put your people first. If your people are your main priority, that trickles down into everything you do. If you're in a sales position and I'm the CEO and I'm treating my people well, my people are going to come to work happy, and they're going to come to work, energized and ready to go. And that trickles then into their sales relationships that they have with their clients. So it's very cyclical. Another company that really comes to mind that's doing that piece very well is Dynamic, is a healthcare consulting company here in Philly, and Dan Callista is their CEO. And they recently, I shouldn't say recently, within the past couple of years, they implemented what they call Zmail. And Zmail is basically a policy across the company that says after 10 p.m. and before 6 a.m., no company-wide emails can be sent.
Oh, I love that.
I know. I thought, wow, what a great thing to implement. And, their mission is to be the healthiest company in the world. And so they said, we need to start with our people. We need to make sure that our people are spending time with their families, are getting the rest that they need, are not connected to their email between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. because they should be doing other things. They should be sleeping. They should be catching up on reading or whatever else, they like to do in their spare time. And they don't need to be connected. And so it's funny because the woman I was meeting with there, Maddie, she said one time she did send an email past 10, and the response she got from her coworker was that really necessary that you sent that email past 10 p.m.? So they really hold each other accountable too. And I think it's pretty great because they're seeing their team come in a lot more refreshed in the morning, and no weekends, no email on the weekends either. So they're coming in after feeling good going into the work week on a Monday morning.
That's a good one right there, Jessica.
Yeah, I think we all could learn a little bit from Dynamic when it comes to email.
I've worked in a lot of organizations where managers, and not just managers, team members too, start emailing you at 5:36 in the morning and think nothing of it, and email on Saturday mornings.
Yep.
So that's a real good one.
Yeah.
We do need to sleep, but a lot of people, I guess, don't like it. I'm a sleeper.
Well, and I think too, there are ways now that you can, if you are up early and, you're drinking your coffee at 5:30 in the morning and you like to cruise through your email, that's fine, but perhaps schedule it. Instead of sending it immediately, have it scheduled so that it goes out at 8 a.m. instead of 5:30. There are so many apps and different things that you can utilize, to hold your email to go out to a certain time. And I just think it's especially if you're the leader in a company, I think it's really important that you mirror the work that that you hope for, yourself. And do you want emails coming through at 5:30? Probably not. And I think setting the example for the rest of your team is really important for primarily for leadership.
Were there any other cool cultural best practice? They're not necessarily best practices. Cool cultural things you saw at these tours?
Yeah. One that comes to mind is there's another company in the Navy Yard called Revzilla. And Revzilla is a company that started online, an online retail website for motorcycle equipment and gear. And they quickly blew up into being not only one of Philadelphia's largest companies, but on the Forbes list. And so they utilize technology such as YouTube and social media to really push different videos of folks utilizing their gear and have expanded so large, and their company continues to grow. And one thing I loved about my visit there was the emphasis on continual learning. They have folks who not only during your onboarding are you learning in different workshops, but every time a new product comes out or a different area of the company is expanding, they have a room that is specifically it's a classroom on site. It's specifically for education. And so you are not just a team member, a coworker, or as they call them, zillions. You're not just a zillion. You are continually learning, and they really put a lot of time and effort into making sure that you stay abreast of what's going on, not only in the industry, but also just as a professional. How are you continually growing? And they have a great emphasis on career succession. So I think there are different perks when people think of companies. What are the perks that you're getting? The obvious are health insurance or the salary or the flexibility and schedule. But there's also companies such as Sphere Interactive who allows their team members as many days off as they want to serve the community. And so they've taken it a whole nother way where it's important to them and their leadership that they are giving back and allowing their team members to take time off as much as they want to serve in soup kitchens or run races to raise money for Children's Miracle Network. So lots of ways that companies are providing perks that are not your normal perks, but that are things that make the workplace not just about work. And I think that that's really the key to being a successful, to providing a successful company culture, is really thinking about what would make our employees happy, but also retain them and keep them energized and keep them engaged in the work that we're doing.
Does what makes employees happy, if we think about that statement you just made, does that change by generation? What you do to make a millennial happy, is that different than what will make a baby boomer happy or a Gen Xer happy?
Sure. I think when it comes to the tangible perks, perhaps you will see a difference. You will see, a millennial or, the next generation, Generation Y coming up, say we want more work from home days, whereas a baby boomer may say, I want to go to work every day. I want to be in the office. I want to wear a suit. I want to, whatever, the kind of former cultural norms were. But I think when it comes down to it, Marianne, everyone across the spectrum wants the same thing. They want transparency. They want ownership of their work. They want autonomy in the workplace. They want to be respected, and they want to know that their thoughts are taken into consideration, that their thoughts matter, and that they are appreciated I think everyone wants to feel appreciated, and when you feel appreciated, you're going to work harder. And so the biggest advice I can give for the leadership of these companies, or any company for that matter, is to appreciate your team. Let them know that you care about the work that they're doing, and that will keep them there. And so, to answer your question, those are the important pieces. A baby boomer may not care about a fully stocked beer fridge, and maybe a millennial does, but they do care, they really do care about those more internal things and that's what will keep them there if they feel valued in the workplace.
So it's real important to keep culture in the forefront when you're looking for work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How does an individual figure out what type of culture works best for them personally? Are there any strategies or mental models you should be going through as you make that assessment for yourself?
Sure. I think that there are certainly ways that you can that you should be reflecting, being self-aware per se on, what are the things that are important to you? Are you really interested in those tangible things? The glitter, the shiny objects. Are you interested in those things? That's what will bring you in. But you have to ask yourself, what will keep you there? What's really, truly important to you? And that can change, of course, as you age, right? So if you're looking to start a family, that conversation might be different with yourself than if you were right out of college, or if you're, a seasoned professional, in your 50s. Depending on where you are in your career, the things that you're looking for in the culture could change. But again, when it comes down to it, you should want to look at who am I going to be reporting to? Who are going to be my direct reports? Are those the people that I see myself learning from and teaching? Do I see myself growing in this company? Are there opportunities for me to continually learn? Is that important to this company that I continually learn and develop as a professional? Or if you're right out of college and you say, you know what, I just need a few years of work on my resume, I'm really just trying to learn, that's great. And that's fine if you know that you're not staying there long term, but making sure you're going in and asking those questions, how can I learn and grow in this role? And that really is a question that anybody should be asking. But I think it sort of, depending on where you are in your career, really frames the conversation. Going in, if you're starting a family, what are the benefits around, maternity and paternity leave? What does it look like, flex time, things of that nature? But you need to ask yourself, what is important to me right now? And be honest and know what, if the salary is the most important thing to you, then that's fine. But then you might be, giving up perhaps that flex time and that half day summer Friday or something like that. But being able to find that balance that makes you happy. But also returning to some assessments. There are plenty of behavioral assessments out there that can give you some great results that allow you to, on paper, see like, well, I'd really work well with these types of people, or I might not work so well at a desk job, but I need something that's more interactive. And it doesn't hurt to take those assessments and have that, candid conversation with yourself. Like, I may not be best working, behind a desk or in a cubicle. And so I probably shouldn't seek out, companies that is their model of office space. So I think, it just comes down to having that candid conversation and perhaps looking to some mentors to bounce some ideas off of as you're starting your search.
Mm-hmm. Folks aren't always transparent during the interview process. I think during the interview process is typically when you do your best to figure out what type of culture is in the current company that you're interviewing with. But people aren't always candid.
Sure.
How can someone who's interviewing get accurate information about the company they're interviewing with? Do they have to start these culture tours like you have?
No, absolutely not. Although I will say that it does. I think it's important to keep a list of companies that you're interested in. So let's say, for example, you're in the healthcare industry and you're reading and you say, oh, wow, that, CHOP sounds like a really great place to work. Put it on your list, just start a list of places that you think might be interesting and just start reading about them. Make it a point to, do a Google search and find out some information on the company. Did they have a CEO turnover in the past year? Well, dive a little bit deeper into why that took place. Or did they, get a huge grant, or funding for, millions of dollars in funding, and where did that come from, and who are the investors? And just start doing some research. I almost think if you wait to the interview, you've waited too long. And so really looking ahead and thinking, all right, I'm happy in my job now, but what are companies that really interest me? And I'll just keep a pulse on what's going on with those companies. Every couple of weeks, just do a quick Google search and see what they're doing and what's happening in the news with that particular company. But if it does get to the point where you're just really finding out about the culture during the interview, there are great things now that you didn't have 10 years ago, like Glassdoor, where people can log on and give their anonymous, opinions on working at a particular company. And I like to think that because it's anonymous, it's pretty accurate, or at least for the most part. And if there are plenty of reviews on a specific company, you can get a good sense of, if one is negative and 35 are positive, maybe one person just didn't have such a great experience. But there are plenty of opportunities out there like Glassdoor, that you can read more about a company and their culture and their leadership, through anonymous pages. But I would say if you're smart, you will start making that list of companies that are really attractive to you, and just keep a pulse on what they're doing, so that when the time comes that you are looking for a new job, you really have a good feeling about what to expect, even going into the interview.
Mm-hmm. What's the best way for someone to follow all of your culture tours and follow you?
Yeah, I would say I really, years ago, I would say my Facebook and my Instagram were my favorite social media outlets. But because of this passion that I have for employee engagement and company culture, I am always on LinkedIn, and that is really the best place to find me. And sometimes I'm quiet, but then there are times where I'm like, there's so much out there, and there's so much to learn on LinkedIn, and so that's certainly where you can find me and all of the things that I am interested in researching.
Okay, so they just need to search for Jessica McPherrin.
Yes, ma'am. That's where I'll be.
All right. Thanks, Jessica.
Hey, thank you so much.